So what I want to tell you about tonight is that there are really like 14, I can call it down to about 14 points yeah, it's this big, but we'll make it 14 points for tonight. So point 1, prepare for your divorce. That means make copies of personal documents, financial documents, scan them into a database, keep them in a safe place, pay down debts, repair property that you may want to keep, get that done, get that moving forward, buy things that you may need in the near future, clothing for a career change, clothing for the kids, etc., and inventory safe deposit boxes. That was point 1. So that's a little bit of preparing for the divorce. Point 2 is that you're going to need money at the time of a divorce. Generally speaking, in many of and we're going to talk a little bit about how you can work with your financials through the 4 different choices or the 4 different ways to get a divorce. But you're going to need some money in advance to pay your attorney and to get things moving. So you're going to want to make sure that you save a little money in anticipation of the divorce, and that if you have a joint checking account or all of your accounts are joint, that you have control of your portion of that. I don't know exactly how that plays out. It depends on your relationship, but you want to know what's there and you want to make sure that it's not disappearing. Also, if you don't already have individual credit cards, you may want to make that change as well in preparation. Get a separate credit card. Control your funds, but more importantly, don't try to conceal anything. It's just, that's going to bite you in the butt. That's just not a good idea. So point number 3 of 14. This is a hard one, but it's really critical. You've got to be able to figure out how to separate your emotions from your economics. And that's where your coach comes in part, because we're so scared when we get to the divorce that a lot of times our head's not clear and we're not making good decisions. And if you are the spouse in your divorce who is the less financially sophisticated, maybe you haven't paid the bills or made the investment decisions, you don't know where all those assets are or who holds them or even who to call, you want to try to get a hold of all of that, going back to point 1, know where your money is, and number 2, make good financial decisions, so don't make them emotionally. Also, don't try to make your spouse pay for what he or she has done. This is not about a revenge, or to Yvonne's point earlier, it's not about winning. It's about trying to solve a problem that you have. It's just dividing things that the 2 of you have up. Point number 4, take some control, take an active role in the process. Get educated again regarding your financial situation, especially if you are, like I said, the less sophisticated party. This is a very empowering exercise, because if you don't know what you have and all of a sudden you're faced with splitting it, you're always going to be afraid that you're not getting the deal, the right deal, or it wasn't enough, or you got the short end of the stick, and you won't want that to happen to you. So, and also super important, don't take what's offered just because it was offered or just to get the thing over with. That's not a good choice either, because as was already stated, you've got a long future ahead of you, and you don't want to take the short end of the stick now and then wind up regretting that later. Also, don't spend money looking for every dime. It's really not worth it. There are just a lot of things to focus on in a divorce, and digging deep looking for every nickel that may be hidden in a nook or cranny is not probably a good idea. Point number 5. Okay, this one's about determining financial support, both child support and maintenance. Understanding how you and your spouse value money is important at this point. Also to look at what are the expenses that you've been having and what are those going to be when you separate. It's good to have an understanding as well about how your spouse is going to make money after the divorce. If you had one working spouse and one non-working spouse, the non-working spouse may have to re-gear, re-educate, and go start to earn some money, and there may be a lag period there. So those things all have to be considered as part of the process. So also, if there's a business that's in play as part of the separation, That can complicate the financial matters quite a bit, and it'll be really important to have that business either valued or come to some early agreements about how that business will be viewed in the separation process. Point number 6, taxability of your support. Child support, when it's received, is not taxable. So if you are the child support payor, then you're going to pay the taxes on those dollars, and then they're going to go to your spouse, and he or she will not pay taxes on those dollars. Maintenance is the opposite. The payor gets to take the tax deduction, and the payee has to pay taxes on those dollars when they receive them. That's an important point as you get into the settlement and you start figuring out, is it fair, and from a tax standpoint, does it work? So claiming your children for the tax exemption is something that's going to come up as well in the separation agreement, excuse me. So you may want to, it may be to your benefit to relinquish the tax deduction. It just depends on your tax, what bracket that you're in, and whether or not you already have a lot of deductions and wouldn't benefit by having that tax deduction. So that's something that will get looked at in the settlement process. Point number 7, protect your support using life insurance. So if you are the support receiver, then you want to take a look down the road and say, well, what is the health of my spouse, my ex-spouse to be, and do I think he or she is going to be available to pay these dollars to me as promised over a number of years to come? If there's already, and you know what, let's face it, life has a lot of things in it that happened that we couldn't have predicted. So it's probably best if everybody in a divorce situation looks at life insurance as it's a necessity, and then when you set that up, ideally, if I'm divorcing and my ex has a life insurance policy that he owns, I want to take control of that. I want to own that policy. He should be the insured, and I should pay the premium. That way I'm in control. I make sure that he never changes the beneficiary designation to the new wife, and I make sure that that premium always gets paid and the policy never goes into default. So this is an important distinction that somebody should probably look at. Point number 8, the family home. This is a very big topic, because the first thing you want to determine as a couple is, can one or the other of you, or the two of you together, afford to have one person keep the house? The house is a very emotional attachment for a lot of people. They've been in it for years. They may have added to it or built on or decorated it or whatever they did. It may have a piece of their family in it. It may have their heart in it, and their children may still be living in it with them, and they may be in the school district and the neighborhood. So it does have a lot of pull, but financially speaking, again, not making decisions emotionally, but rationally, we want to look at the house and determine, is it reasonable for one partner or the other to keep that house? Can you afford to keep it? So if you are going to keep it, then what assets are you willing to give up in order to have it? So a lot of times what will happen in a divorce is that one spouse will say, okay, I've got this 401k, it's worth $400,000. The house is worth $400,000. Well, that's an even swap. Not really, not so much. Generally speaking, not a good swap, because the house is an illiquid asset. The 401k is going to continue to grow in the market when we have growth in the markets. Bob asked me about that a little bit ago. But literally, I like to say to people, good luck eating the counter when you're hungry. That's not going to taste very good, and your kids aren't going to enjoy it. You can't feed kids on a house. Buying out one spouse and transferring the title to that person or to yourself does not create a taxable event. And we've got all kinds of deductions and things that are available in the tax law that allow for you to sell and not pay tax on capital gains. Point number 9, retirement assets. We have to divide all those retirement assets, the 401k, the IRAs. There's something, a legal document that the attorney would create for you at some point in the settlement agreement, which is called a QDRO. It's QDRO, and it'll help divide those assets, pensions, 401ks. Sometimes IRAs need a QDRO, a lot of times they don't, but those things all can get divided legally. Point number 10, Social Security for divorced spouses. Okay, so Just this past week, there was a change made to the Social Security laws. It took some things that had been available for the last 15 years back off the table. Those things are changing. So it's something that we're going to want to look at in the course of a divorce, because that may be part of a benefit that one spouse or the other can receive as a divorcee. The general rule is that you must have been married to that person for 10 years or more, and that if you remarry, that benefit goes away. You don't get to collect on the spouse's Social Security. And you must be 62, and your spouse must be 62. There are some other things around that. There's a whole course on Social Security, and there's 546 ways to claim it. So that's a whole other topic, but it is something that should be looked at as part of the divorce. Other assets and debts, there's all kinds of stuff. Lots of times the couple is easily able to divide the stuff. You keep your car, I keep mine. You get that room, I get that room. I get mom's photographs, you get this, you get that, and that's done. Division of that property doesn't create a taxable event. So a lot of times it doesn't bubble up as something that's going to be a problem in the process. Again, businesses should be valued as part of the process, but that again is about each individual divorce. Don't forget about things like frequent flyer points, because I know, like, my brother's got a ton of those. So that would be an asset that could be used in a divorce. Accumulated vacation and sick pay. And don't forget to deal with your joint credit cards in terms of the debt that's owed as part of this, your settlement. Other issues to consider: separate property, inheritances. What did you bring into the relationship that you'd like to take back out with you? Those kinds of things. Reimbursements and divorces. Sometimes there's a note that gets written for one to pay the other back over time. And then point 13, deciding what's best for you. The benefits and the drawbacks of trading retirement funds for the home, for instance. So there's quite a bit there. Budgets for your present and for your future, and considering those future needs. Number 14 is moving on, how to get your financial life in order after the divorce is final. All of this, of course, is designed so that when you leave your divorce process, you're comfortable. You've made an agreement that you feel good about and that you know you can support and live with, because what you're really looking for is a way for you to create some financial security for yourself. It's really all about the financial security that you're trying to create. So specifically, the financial professional in the divorce works with you or on your team to educate one or both of your clients, and then bring them to equal footing in the decision-making process. So again, the four different ways to get a divorce. There are ways that a divorce or a certified divorce financial analyst like myself can get involved. Would be on a tabletop. Call your existing advisor. See if they can help you answer any questions that you may have about your assets, what they are, where they might be, and what the outcome of some of the various settlement options you're considering might be. This can be done, you can hire somebody if you want to, and that can be done by one party, it can be done by both parties. It really doesn't matter, but that person needs to understand what the circumstances are. If it's tabletop and you're at home trying to figure it out, or you're at the Denny's talking over the table, do you want to meet with that person together and do it together, or do you want to meet separately, figure that out? Again, the goal is financial security. Mediation. Use a financial professional in a team setting with a mediator, or use it in partnership with the mediator to gain a deeper understanding of the financial situation regarding what the outcomes are going to look like. That, again, can be a neutral consultant as a resource for both parties or as one party. In a litigated setting, I like to say all bets are off in litigation. You know, if you're litigating, you're both hiring an attorney, and you're going to go to battle in court, both of you may want to hire your own, or you may decide together to hire one financial professional and trust that you're both going to agree to whatever that financial professional is showing you. That, you know, you're not going to look at it and say, well, that's wrong or that's wrong. So some cases might require two professionals. In a collaborative setting, and I want to make sure I get this point in because I'm going over time. I was 5 minutes short in practice, and now I'm 5 minutes over. In this setting, in the collaborative setting, the financial professional plays a neutral role. This financial professional cannot have worked with either client before the divorce event or after the event, only during the divorce, because there can never be any sense that that professional was in any way inappropriate or slanted to one client or the other. So the financial works with the clients to assist and support them and their attorneys with the goal, again, to arrive at financial security for you. So I just wanted to make one point, and then I will be done. If you litigate a case and a judge gets involved, sorry, Gary.
You're doing fine.
There is absolutely no guarantee. If a judge gets involved, there's absolutely no guarantee of financial security. A judge will use a Form 414 to determine the child support, and there are no firm guidelines for maintenance. In a collaborative setting, you stay in control. You get to decide. It's private, it's your business, it's out of the court until it's time to go down and file. So those are the things to consider with regard to the role of a financial professional in this business.